to welcome everybody to our red carpet event for What is Your Side Effect? What is Your Side Effect is a media campaign that we have put together, and the primary purpose of the campaign is to help with the prevention and of the misuse and abuse of prescription drugs in Madison County. So we're going to talk a little bit, and we're going to show you a little bit of data. Don't get overwhelmed, but we're just going to show you a little bit to kind of explain where we are with Madison County, and then we're going to talk about what we're doing to help prevent it, to help eliminate it, and to help make it better. And we're doing that in conjunction with quite a few people in our community. We have several partners that have brought their heads together and said, what do we need to do to make this very, very impactful? So I'm just going to introduce just a couple people, and if you just kind of give me the high sign, we'll know where you are. First of all, we want to thank the Story Shop, which has been instrumental in putting this stuff together. Is there anybody here from the Story Shop? I also want to thank our SAD youth, which is Students Against Destructive Decisions. If you are currently in SAD, or if you have been in SAD in the past, can you just give me a high sign? Our SAD youth, give them a hand. We want a real big hand for our adults that work with SAD, Missy and Monica, if they could give us the high sign. And last but not least, I'd like to introduce you to our executive director, Carissa Knight-Wilkerson. Without her, this would not even begin to happen. So Carissa, give us the high sign. Yes. So thank you all for coming tonight. Again, it's very informal, so feel free to enjoy yourself, and we'll go ahead and get started with the program. The first thing that we're going to have up is Tammy Doty Davis. She's going to come up and just kind of tell you what was one of the driving factors behind putting together What's Your Side Effect. And she's going to talk a little bit about what the story looks like here in Madison County. So if we could have Tammy come up.
Okay. Good evening. Well, I know that data is probably like something you just are chomping at the bit to look at, I'm sure. But it'll give us a little bit of a trend in what's been going on in Madison County that has led to the development of What's Your Side Effect. So, first slide, thank you. If you, for instance, raise your hand if you've ever used a prescription drug. Okay? Now, have you ever used a prescription drug that wasn't yours? Be truthful, come on. Yeah. Now, that's as far as I'll go for the questions, but abuse refers to when you're not, your doctor doesn't write you a script to get a drug, and the abuse part is that you just keep using those. It's not just a one-time thing. And the state Epidemiological Outcomes Work Group looked at every county for 4 indicators. As you see, they're listed up there. You have the number and rate of arrests for possession of other drugs, and the arrests and manufacture of these other drugs, the number of treatment episodes, and the number and rate of controlled substances dispensed in Indiana. And when we went to the prescription drug conference last year, one interesting bit of data that they told was they compared like the number of prescription drugs that the United States uses compared to other countries in the world. And I don't remember the exact numbers, but if you had like, all right, on a scale of 1 to 10, we were at like 9.999, and say in Italy, they were maybe at 2. So there's a humongous difference in in how we utilize prescription drugs here in the country, in our country. Go next. Okay, the SEOW, which is the State Epidemiological Outcomes Work Group, that puts together our state epidemiological survey, has found that they did it for the prescription drug abuse per county, and we were number 1. Isn't that great? We're number 1 for prescription drug abuse, not just use, but abuse. And we're, it's a pretty good number, 13 points above the second place, which is Vanderburgh County, which is down in Evansville. So, they took that information and said, hey, keep Madison County up in our thought process. And then we go to the next slide, and we can see that we are in the top 10 of overall substance abuse, and that counts for marijuana, alcohol, tobacco, everything, tobacco and prescription drugs, and non-prescription drugs. So, we're kind of there's an issue going. There's a trend there with some problems. And we go and look at our Madison County specific data, which is the next slide, please. It's okay. We can see the drug arrests, and that's by age. And this is from 2011 to 2014. And we can see that the numbers went down overall because of the purple line, but still we have a good number there, especially in the younger age group regarding drug arrests. And then we can go down and see the different types of drugs looked at, and you can see in 2011, prescription drugs arrests were outnumbered marijuana arrests. And that, you see marijuana is the blue line, and it's pretty daunting from year to year. But that one was probably something that they really considered. And, we also had a meth problem. We still do slightly have meth problems here. And those are the types of, the type of data that they looked at, the SEOW. Next slide, please. And then when we look at, how bad were these drug arrests, we can see that this is a rate that our admissions to the Department of Corrections, so when they go to prison, you can see how different, this is by race, but you can see the numbers, how far above they are the average for the state. You can say that at 12 that's for 10,000 people in Madison County, 12 versus 5.8 for the white race. That's dramatic to know that we are more than double the rate of the state. And so that's, again, another factor that they use to figure out that Madison County is definitely needs to find some way to handle this problem. And then we can see that they, in a comparison together, they put together the scores of the indicators for Madison County versus the state. You can see the rates. You have the numbers, but it's based on 6 million people versus 130,000 here in our county. But you can see how the rates are well above the state average. And so that's definitely a major indication that there is a severe problem here in Madison County, and that is what has led to the creation of What's Your Side Effect. So I will, you're going to introduce Vera. I know Vera and Luke are going to come up here and tell you a little bit more about the program. Thank you.
My eyes always kind of glass over when Tammy starts talking data and charts and things like that. So I appreciate her taking the time to explain what the difficulty is with Madison County when it comes to prescription drug abuse and misuse. And as you mentioned, one of the problems is, of course, people taking other people's medications. That's a huge problem. It happens to actually be illegal, but it's also people not taking, medication as prescribed. people stealing, of course, people's meds and using them and that kind of thing, people selling them and that. So with the data that Tammy was showing you, Madison County is in a particularly difficult place when it comes to prescription drugs. So we said, what shall we do? What shall we do? And so one of the things that we talked about and was doing a social media campaign, and we kind of did that in conjunction with 3 other counties who also, you saw on the chart, had problems with prescription drug abuse as well. So we kind of as a team met several times, kind of defined what it is we were looking for, and then we went out and looked at several marketing firms and that kind of thing to say who could help us put together this campaign. And we probably interviewed, I don't know, 7, 8 different firms to help us with this. And in one of those sessions, in walked Luke Renner and his partner, David. And they came in and they did just an awesome presentation for our group. And again, we were meeting at IU Bloomington with a lot of data people, statisticians, prevention people, and they just kind of blew everyone out of the water. You know, the presentations had been kind of, okay, that's okay. And they came in with just a very innovative, fresh, and creative approach to social media, and specifically with prescription drugs. So we're going to have Luke come up and kind of tell us about the campaign that they recommended to us and which we ended up running with. And he'll talk about how they kind of came up with what they did. And we have several people in this room that have been really involved with putting the campaign together. We started with focus groups and got the ideas and thoughts from our young people, from our law enforcement, from our healthcare providers, so that the approach would be well-grounded in what we thought people might want to actually see, hear, and do. So I'd like to kind of turn it over to Luke. He's going to tell you about what's your side effect and what that means. And so we'll have Luke come up.
Good evening, everyone. How was the hors d'oeuvres? How were the hors d'oeuvres? So I'm Luke. You can also call me Hey Guy with a Hat, and I'll answer to that as well. So what's your side effect, as Vera pointed out, was created after doing quite a bit of focus grouping. Does anyone know what a focus group is? Okay, by me just asking you a question and you responding to it in a very small way, you just now were a focus group. So a focus group is when we will get into a room, rather than assume that we know what everyone is thinking in a community, whether you're young or old, whether you're a police officer or someone who's in rehab from drug abuse, no matter who you might be, rather than just me, who, I don't have all of those experiences. I have my experiences, and they're real, and they matter, but they're just this little piece. So a focus group is when we get people from all different walks of life into a room, oftentimes many, many different sessions, and we sit down and we just talk, and we ask questions, and we'll run an audio recorder. They're all anonymous, right? And what does that help us do? That helps us get honest answers, right? Because you'll notice when the question was asked here tonight, who has used prescription drugs that weren't theirs? How many of us didn't raise our hand who probably have done that, right? You're still not going to raise your hand, right? Because, well, there's something at risk. So in a focus group, you're anonymous. You can say anything you want. Nobody's writing down your name. And that's what we want. We want real, honest answers. And what we started to find from that was probably a lot of information that wouldn't be terribly surprising. A lot of the things that you might think about why people are abusing drugs, prescription drugs, how they're getting them, the reasons why. Some people use the drugs for themselves. Some people use them to sell so they can have money to do other things. So there's this whole economy. And it was really fascinating to listen to that and understand what was going on. Have any of you ever seen when we talk about a social media campaign, has anyone ever seen kind of an anti-drug campaign that through the years that might ring a bell? Think of one. Raise your hand. Front table here. What's one you can think of?
This is your brain.
This is your brain. Has everybody seen the This Is Your Brain on Drugs campaign where they crack an egg and fry it? Any of you seen that? Yeah? Some of you know, some of you yes. That was, when I was a kid, that was the big one. So it was this real kind of low-key voice, this is your brain, and they'd show an egg, and then they'd crack it and throw it in an iron skillet, and you'd see it start to sizzle, and they'd say, this is your brain on drugs. And that was cool and creative, and everybody talked about that, and people joked about it too. I mean, it became kind of a part of the culture in a way, even to the point where that campaign is old, but people who grew up during that time are still talking about this is your brain on drugs, right? And so one of the things that the Story Shop had to look at was, how do you say an old thing in a refreshing new way? How do you say an old thing in a way that actually might make a difference? This Is Your Brain on Drugs is an interesting campaign. When we looked at that and evaluated that against the challenge we had, which was to do it all over again for the very first time, we weren't terribly blown away by that approach. There are a lot of approaches that tell you what you shouldn't be doing, right? What you shouldn't be doing. All right, I want everyone to focus on me for a moment. Everyone get in your happy place. Just train your eyes up here on me. I'm getting ready to give you an instruction. And I need your absolute concentration for this. Everybody with me? Don't think about a pink elephant. All right. Now, probably every single person in this room, even if just for a minuscule moment in time, thought about a pink elephant. How do you don't do something? You can stop doing something, stop bouncing the ball, right? How do you don't do something? I have 5 kids at home. I have 3 of them here. So technically right now in this moment I have 2 kids at home. They're supposed to be home. I hope they're home. They're little. So when you have kids, little kids especially, if you say, don't pick the cat up by the tail, right? The brain doesn't know what don't means. It doesn't know what don't is. How do I don't do something? So the brain takes don't and just shaves it right off and throws it in the toilet and flushes it. And what's left? Pick the cat up by the tail. That's what the brain gets. So I say don't pick the cat up by the tail. The kid's brain goes, I don't know how to don't something. Pick the cat up by the tail. I think I'm going to pick the cat up by the tail. Don't think about a pink elephant. Well, you had no reason to think about a pink elephant, but when I said don't do it, you were thinking about it. Okay? So one of the things we wanted to do with this campaign is not tell you what not to do. One of the things we wanted to do this campaign was challenge the idea that the drug is the most powerful thing in the community. When you say don't do drugs, or when you talk about drugs, how many of you have seen a drug commercial and it gives this big list of side effects? Right? What are some of the side effects? Just shout them out. Some that you've heard. Death. Nausea, blurred vision, headaches. It's like really, some of it's like death, I heard. Right? I want to cure my foot fungus. Death may occur. That might not be the right thing. But I'm going, I think I can live with foot fungus. I'm not sure I want to die tonight or ever. I'm trying to avoid that. Sometimes the side effects are so powerful, and there's such a long list of them that have you ever just gone like, wait, maybe it's not worth this at all, like this particular thing. And these are good medicines, right? We're not against medicine. We're not saying don't use medicine. But the thing we wanted to say was, instead of talking about how powerful the drugs are, what the side effects of the drugs are, what about you? What about you? What about all of you here? What's your side effect? You're powerful. You have the ability to do something in the world. Why are we constantly worrying about how these other things are strong and powerful and we're dodging? We just spend our whole life dodging dangerous stuff when those things should be getting out of our way. Because we're the ones who are here to change the game. We're the ones who are here to set the bar higher, to do bigger and better things, to say no to the people that are getting in the way of our plans, to making a plan if we didn't have one. Do you see where I'm going with this? So what we ended up coming up with at the Story Shop, and we presented it to the communities, and they loved it, and we all worked on it together, was this idea, what is your side effect? I don't know if you can tell, but there's a kind of a cool little iconography there where it's a microphone, right? So there's this implied idea that we want to hear what you have to say. We want to hear your voice. But there's also a little bit of a hint of a pill. I don't know if you're noticing that, but that's in there too. And so we created with this social messaging campaign, we created all of these different resources, and it is a media campaign. So really the Story Shop's task was to create content. So we have a website, you can go there, it's whatyoursideeffect.org. Well, my voice is doing some stuff there. And there's a lot of different resources on the website. I've just kind of rattled through them quickly. One of the cool things that's really neat about this campaign that we love is up in the right-hand corner, you can see that orange button. There's a whole resource section for parents. So this isn't just about talking to kids who fit this kind of age group who are challenged with this problem. But we also want to be able to talk frankly with parents. And so we had a really cool opportunity, in addition to getting good stories from youth about what they're doing that's positive in the world, we were able to get some really frank, candid conversation from parents, and there's a really neat resource there that you can look at. And I actually am really, really happy about that section because, you know, sometimes those things can be they feel very scripted and that's not really what people think and say, but those are real conversations. And then one of the cornerstones of the campaign, and we're actually done with the first phase and getting ready to create more content, is we have these films which feature certain young people, and some of y'all are in the room tonight. I know Madison's in the room. Hey, how are you? So, and what we did was we basically took this idea of people having the power to change the world, having a side effect in the world, and we showed you what that looks like. Rather than just throw out a hook and a catchy phrase, we wanted to show you what that looks like. And so here's one story. I'm going to play it through, and I'm going to hope it's not too crazy loud. We'll watch this, and then we'll go on from there.
My name is Brandon Boynton. I'm the CEO of Most Pizza Studios, LLC. We're a mobile app development company specializing in iPhone and Android applications. Our highest profile application thus far is the Bully Box. So the Bully Box is a mobile application available on iPhone, Android, as well as desktop computers. It allows students to report acts of bullying that they may have witnessed on their mobile phones. When they make this report, it goes to our servers and can trigger immediate alert phone calls that go to administrators telling them that a report's been made. It's a very sophisticated software application and backend for administrators that I'm proud to say is being utilized in 2 schools at this point in time. 8th grade was a tough year for me, with struggling, being bullied, etc. It really built a passion for me for anti-bullying. So I thought, I'm going to take this and take it to the next level. I'm going to do something that no high school student has done before and create this application that's going to change and save lives, hopefully. I don't really consider myself an activist, although I do like to feel like I'm doing something positive. I like to feel like my work is encouraging to others, and I'm doing something that's actually going to change the life of someone. I'm making apps that change lives, that have a social cause, they have a reason for being there, and I'm doing my best to try and benefit the lives of as many people as I can through these apps. That's my side effect.
How cool is that? Brandon, are you here? Can you come on up? Brandon's here. Everybody give him a hand. Brandon's going to say a few words.
Thank you, Luke, for the introduction and for playing the video. As you saw, my name is Brandon Boynton, and as mentioned in the video, I'm the CEO of Most Pizza Studios Mobile Development, as well as the owner of the Bully Box. So I'd like to begin by saying that to have been approached by Luke Renner in the Story Shop about participating in the What's Your Side Effect campaign has been a very humbling experience. To think that you're being lifted up as an example of a teenager who's enjoyed moderate success, due in large part to making positive choices, can be a little bit unsettling, and then later on seeing yourself on a billboard can be a little bit unsettling beyond that, while it was very cool. So certainly, as I reflect upon my life, I have regrets, and like everyone, I've made choices that if given the opportunity to revisit the situation, I'd certainly go a different direction. As an individual, I know that I can always be a better person. We can all be better, and we should never stop trying to improve upon ourselves. As teenagers, it should be our collective goal to be the best person that we can be, to lean on the advice and wisdom of our parents, teachers, and community leaders. For it's during the season of our lives that many of the decisions we make will have the most profound and long-lasting effects. Peer pressure, drug abuse, prescription drug abuse, alcohol abuse, self-esteem, comprehending the value of education, comprehending the dangers of distracted driving, and learning to avoid the negative influences in today's media are just some of the issues that teenagers deal with on a daily basis. All that being said, if I can in some small way serve to inspire other teens, I happily accept the challenge. And in fact, in many ways, I see it as a responsibility. For me personally, good choices are driven by three primary motives: faith in God, faith in humanity, and faith in my family. And when I was very young, I do want to specify, or kind of precede this by saying that it's extremely cheesy, although it really is powerful. My mother taught me as a second grade teacher. She told me, good, better, best, never let it rest until your good is better and your better is best. And like I said, it's extremely cheesy, and it comes from a second grade teacher, although it really epitomizes the necessary work ethic to ensure success in life. Your best not only applies to your professional accomplishments, but to your character and your relationships as well. I have to constantly think, what kind of a son am I? What kind of a brother am I? What kind of a husband and father will I be? And I also want to acknowledge that the playing field is not level for everybody. Not every young person has had both parents present in their life, and I know many teens that suffer from physical and or emotional abuse, neglect, or very little support. And many do not have the same opportunities that I've had due to one or two parents being out of work. And I do not take the blessings that God's bestowed upon me for granted. However, I do believe that anyone can ultimately level the playing field by demonstrating good character, making good choices, setting goals, and working hard to achieve those goals. And finally, I'd like to say that any success that I've enjoyed is not mine alone to take credit for. I've been blessed with a very supportive and loving family. And in addition, I've received an outpouring of support from the Madison County community. The Madison County Chamber of Commerce, the Flagship, the Story Shop, and numerous other organizations and individuals deserve credit and will always have my gratitude. And lastly, I really want to thank you, Luke, for approaching me, and then everybody associated with this campaign for inviting me to help in any way that I can. And I cannot wait to see this go into phase 2 and see where it's going to go. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. How does that work? Do you just going for it? Okay, this is on our agenda. It says T-shirt toss. There's drinks on the tables. Have we thought of that? There's a T-shirt pass. All right, so that's going to happen here. Wow, should I play the video while that's happening, or you want to do that like? How's that? 2 seconds. Okay. Will it be your size? We don't know. If it's not, use it for like currency. Like get something you want and use your T-shirt as your currency. We got a couple up here. Very cool. So I said there's a parents section on the website. This is one little clip from that catalog of films, and there's somebody in this film who's in here. Chantel Peevler is in this film, and she's in the room, and she's going to speak. And Chantel, right after this is done playing, if you want to just come on up, then this will be your introduction. Does that sound good?
You know, first and foremost, be involved and know where your kids are.
Communication, I think, is big.
Communication is the key to everything.
It starts at home. It starts with parents investing time in their children.
Work through things, you know, and get it out there.
I do think the important thing at our house is we have open dialogue. We talk about everything.
You have to acknowledge your weaknesses, you have to acknowledge your strengths, and you have to be okay with all of that.
If you don't communicate well, you don't know what to expect from someone else.
I mean, if you know your child truly, you'll notice the changes. They're there.
We all have different ideas, different values, different upbringings.
We struggle a lot with that, and I listen to him, though.
Even if you don't agree, maybe understand where they come from.
It's so easy to say, well, I want to trust my kids and I want to give them their space. They're kids. They're going to make bad decisions. We all did, and they will as well.
Have those talks with your kids, like keep in communication with them.
Letting them know how important they are, whether they get a C or an A. I mean, if they're doing their best and they're trying, that's still okay.
Even if it's something that you might not want to hear, you might not like it, they need to be able to know that they can talk to you.
Hello, everyone. My name's Chantel Peevler, and I'm Madison's mom. And
Vera asked me to speak to you, and I asked her what about, and I told her about something that had happened to us coincidentally in conjunction with this program. And when the day that the videos were released, my daughters came home from, I don't know where they were, but they came home, and I got a phone call and a text message with a picture with ambulances and fire trucks in my front yard. Naturally, I was horrified. I didn't know if it was my family or someone else's. Come to find out, our next door neighbor, who is Madison's age, so he was 14, had overdosed on prescription drugs the very day that the video came out. When Madison started with this campaign, we really didn't know anybody or had any real experience with it, but it really hit home that day. He was very, very bad. They had to lifeline him to Indianapolis. He was on life support, and he did pull through. A month later, his girlfriend overdosed on prescription drugs as well. You might be surprised how many kids are dealing with this problem and how many kids are actually taking prescription drugs and you don't have any idea. I had no idea that our neighbor was doing this. You know, it was news to me and so close to my own daughter. So for us, this really means a lot, this program. And I think that it's really great how we're focusing on the positive side of what you can do and what you can be and the positive things that you can do for your community. There are lots and lots of kids out there that are doing the right things. And I think that it's awesome that we're focusing on those things. That's my story. I don't have 10 minutes worth of a story, but it's a true story, and it was very ironic the day that the video came out, that this came out. Just surprising.
We're going to watch another one of the films. This is Meet Micaiah.
My name's Micaiah Calloway, and I guess I would describe myself as outgoing. The things I fill my time with are soccer, cheerleading, Students Against Destructive Decisions, International Club, AV Club, and Skill Bowl. I would say my biggest dream is to go to an Ivy League school, preferably UPenn, to study communications. I think I want to be a news anchor. Since I'm in school, it's sometimes hard to find the time to do all those things, but it's possible with dedication. I look up to my mom because she teaches me that anything is possible. With help from my mom and just remembering that my home life comes first and my chores and my schoolwork, it's all possible. One thing that makes me happy is being a role model. Sometimes after I cheer a game, little girls will come up to me and tell me that they want to be a cheerleader like me, and it just makes me feel happy to know that little kids look up to me. I try to stay positive and be a role model to others. That's my side effect.
Are you in the room? Come on. I was wrong. She is speaking. So come on up. She's going to say a few words. Thank you.
Okay. Hi. Can I lower it? Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
You got it.
So I didn't know I would be speaking, so I'm a little nervous. Just bear with me. And Brandon, you're a tough act to follow. So, but first, I want to thank Missy and Vera and Mecca and Mrs. Dunn and Luke and the Story Shop, because without them, I would have never had these opportunities. I want to thank God, of course, and my mom. Like you guys saw in the video, she's the one that inspires me. And, oh man, I'm getting, I just want to say that, okay, I'm sorry. I just want to thank my mom because I lost my dad when I was younger, and My mom's been a mom and a dad to me, and without her, none of this would be possible. And I just want to thank you for everything you do. And even though my dad's not here, he's forever in my mind and always in my heart. And since the What's Your Side Effect campaign launched, I've gotten a lot of attention from it. Not all of it's been good. I mean, people have had positive things to say, and then, some people have had negative things to say, but I'm thankful for all of it, the highs, the lows, the bad comments, the good comments, all of it. And like you guys saw in the video, I hope to be a news anchor one day, and I just want to say that this really helped me realize that my dreams are reachable and that this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. So thank you, Luke.
Good evening, everyone. I'll be in charge of introducing our keynote speaker. William J. Nelson was first elected judge in Marion County in 1994 and currently presides in the Marion Superior Court, Criminal Division 18. Prior to assuming the Superior Court bench, he maintained a private law practice for 16 years, focusing on general practice, litigation, and criminal defense. Prior to his private practice, Judge Nelson served as a deputy prosecutor in the Marion County Prosecutor's Office. He is also a former police officer, a former adjunct professor at Indiana University, and is currently an adjunct professor at Ivy Tech Community College, teaching criminal law and criminal justice courses. Judge Nelson is currently the president of Drug Free Marion County and a member of CADCA, Community Anti-Drug Coalitions of America. He and his wife, Christina, are active community advocates against drug abuse and are frequent lecturers on a wide range of topics, including prescription drugs, synthetic drugs, dangerous drug trends, the heroin epidemic, and etc. They are also the proud recipients of the Drug Free Marion County 2012 Parent Advocate Award for their outstanding contribution to substance abuse education and prevention. Judge Nelson received his BA and JD degree from Indiana University and is a graduate of the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy. He has also received numerous certifications from the National Judicial College in the areas of impaired driving, driving under the influence of alcohol and other drugs, substance abuse and mental illness, drug recognition and substance abuse prevention and education. If you could all welcome Mr. Judge Wilson.
Wow, thank you for that kind introduction. Makes you feel a little more important than you really are. Let's see if the judge gets the same answer. How many have had prescription drugs that weren't yours? We had a little bit of technical difficulties before we got here this evening, so and I also saw that I only have 20 minutes to speak, so we're going to go through this pretty quickly. I'm extremely honored to be here. A special thank you to Dr. Mangrum for the invitation, and a very special thanks to all of you who are willing to take part in such a special program. I always welcome the opportunity to speak to people, especially young people, and share some things that I feel are worth sharing. Do you know why? Because usually when I see young people, it's too late. It's too late because it's in court. After they made a bad choice, after they did something stupid, after they committed a crime and got arrested by the police, after they already spent a few days in jail. If I happen to see you in court, oftentimes we don't see you again for a long, long time. I travel all over the state of Indiana speaking to students from elementary schools to high schools, to neighborhood groups, civic organizations, to youth groups and parent groups, and drug treatment facilities on topics that affect today's adolescents. You name it, we discussed the many challenges that life throws your way. Drug and alcohol abuse, bullying, drunk driving, texting and driving, juvenile delinquency. We discussed the choices that you make in facing challenges every day and the consequences of those choices. One of the technical difficulties I have is I don't have my remote control, so Vanna White there is going to... let's talk about choices. And as we do, I want you to remember 12 minutes and 45 seconds. Choices, what are they? It's a conscious decision. Everybody makes thousands of choices every day. In any given minute, we will make about 5 choices. With 1,000 minutes in the average working day, that's 5,000 choices every day. What time to wake up? Do I hit the snooze button? Do I have time for breakfast? Am I going to have cereal or eggs? Sunny side up, scrambled. All kinds of choices. What am I going to do today? Hang out at the mall? Watch TV? Should I cut the grass today? School's out, so maybe I should just hang out. Should I start that project that's due next week? Think about it. Every thought, every moment, and every word is a choice. Your life is a series of choices. From the instant you wake up in the morning until the moment you nod off to sleep at night, you're making constant decisions. Decisions about things to do, about the words you speak, about the way you choose to direct your thoughts. They can be good or bad, smart or stupid, right or wrong, easy or hard, healthy or unhealthy, important and not so important. You can rush to judgment, you can make them too quickly, or you can make them too late. And never forget, regardless of the type of choice, no matter what choice you make, there are always consequences. And that's why you are all here today, to commit yourselves to make better choices. One of the most important choices you can make is life over death. You choose. I'm here today to ask you to choose life over death. If you are seriously committed to doing so, you must choose life over drugs. Let's talk about drugs. That's what we're here for. It's a topic that by necessity and not by choice that is near and dear to my heart. One about which I'm very passionate, a topic on which I consider myself an expert. Again, not by necessity, or by necessity, not by choice. Let's focus on that ever so important choice about using drugs. Why? Because most of you in this room have already been confronted with the choice, or will sometime during your life, to use drugs. Sadly, 9 out of 10 people in this room have used or will start using drugs before they turn 18 years old. 80% of the cases that I see every day in court involve either directly or indirectly drugs or alcohol. 80%, 8 out of 10 people. They're there because they made the choice to resort to drug use. Either they were caught using, possessing, or selling drugs, or because they were stealing, robbing, or prostituting themselves to get money to buy drugs. And the biggest drug problem that we face today is the misuse and abuse of prescription medicine. That is what I want to spend the rest of my time talking about, because as you will see, it is what I'm most qualified to discuss. To understand a little better about choices surrounding prescription drug use, you need to understand the difference between drug use, drug misuse, drug abuse, and drug addiction. Drug misuse, someone's referred to earlier, is when you take, go back to drug use, please. You take a drug or medication properly or sometimes recreationally. That's, you're using drugs. Drug misuse is you take drugs that aren't meant for your illness. You're taking a legal prescription medication for a purpose other than what it was prescribed for, or you're taking someone else's drugs. Drug abuse is using the medication without a prescription in a way other than it is prescribed or for the purpose of eliciting a specific feeling, a high. Drug abuse is what leads to that horrible, horrible disease, drug addiction. It's the last two categories, the drug abuse and the drug addiction, that we kind of need to focus on, because it's abuse and that horrible disease of addiction that ultimately affect your ability to make rational decisions regarding drugs, to use them or not use them. Because as you travel the spectrum from using to addiction, you will see that your decisions become more important, yet more difficult to make, if you can make them at all, until you get to the very end, that addiction, where you're beyond the ability to make rational choices. With respect to abuse and addiction, making the wrong choice leads you to one of three places: a treatment facility, prison, or death. Prescription drug abuse is a growing epidemic across the entire United States. It affects all types of people. An epidemic, as you will see, means affecting many persons at one time, and with prescription drug abuse, it's nationwide. It affects all of us across the country. It affects all types of people: all-star athletes, A students, corporate executives, single mothers. No age, race, social class, or geographic location is above the danger of prescription drug abuse. More people abuse prescription drugs than cocaine, heroin, hallucinogenics, and inhalants all combined. The White House found it so important that they issued a report in 2011 on this national epidemic. Remember 12 minutes and 45 seconds. In the United States, someone dies from an accidental drug overdose every 12 minutes and 45 seconds. With 55%, more than half of those deaths being attributable to prescription drugs. Prescription drugs abuse is especially popular among teenagers and young adults. 1 in 5 teens, that's 4.5 million children, abuse prescription medications to get high. Next. 1 in 5. 1 in 4 will become addicted to that drug. Every day, more than 2,700 teenagers try a prescription drug for the first time. It's the new drug of choice. Teenagers are experimenting with Vicodin and Klonopin even before they try traditional gateway drugs such as alcohol, tobacco, and marijuana. It's a prescription for disaster, and the numbers are increasing every day. The main problem is teenagers don't understand the dangers of prescription drug use. 1 in 3 will tell you it's okay to use prescription drugs every once in a while. Another part of the problem is too many parents don't understand the problem and are unaware. 1 out of 4 children are going to tell you that my parents don't care as much if I get caught using prescription drugs compared to getting caught with illegal drugs. And it's bad right here at home. The state of Indiana is second in the nation in prescription drug abuse. As late as February of 2015, Indiana ranked at the top. So why is that? What's the attraction of prescription drugs? As you can see, Indiana again is among one of the 5 or 6 top states lead across the country in non-medical use of prescription drugs. So why is that? They're easy to get, thrill-seeking, my friends are doing it, self-medication, lack of self-esteem, less stigma associated with prescription drugs. Children view them as being safe, and parents are less likely to disapprove. What's the number one source of prescription drugs? Anybody care to guess? Your own home, your own medicine cabinet. Teens will tell you that prescription drugs are easier to get than alcohol. Anybody know what a farm party is? Believe it or not, parents pay particular attention. These are parties held around at fellow students' or friends' houses where the cost of admission is to bring a handful of pills from your parents' medicine cabinet. They all go into a bowl, and the kids experimenting by taking handfuls and popping them. So where are they getting them? They're getting from classmates. Again, most are getting them right at home from your medicine cabinet. They're available on the internet. Mom and dad pay particular attention to that. And very few, believe it or not, get them from the drug dealer. A second attraction to prescription drugs is invincibility. Let's get that. Let me back up a little bit if you would. This is just a recent phenomenon, especially here in Indiana. Armed robberies of pharmacies. Indiana is fortunate or unfortunate enough to lead the nation 4 years in a row in armed robberies of pharmacies. You can see they're number 1 in 2011 and 12. Next. It moved down to number 2 in 2013. And they're not stealing money from the pharmacies. They're stealing drugs. This is a huge problem. There's the perception that prescription drugs are not as harmful and that they certainly can't be as bad as cocaine and other illicit drugs. They're prescribed by a doctor. How can they help? How can they hurt you? My mom and dad take them. My brother takes them. They have fewer side effects and are not as addictive as heroin or cocaine. It's okay to take someone else's prescription drugs, and they are not illegal. These are what kids believe today, and nothing can be further from the truth. We are a pill-taking society. Think about it. You go to the doctor 10 times, 7 times, you're going to walk out of there with the prescription in hand. You see advertising on TV and in magazines. If you can't read that, the United States makes up 5% of the world's population, yet we consume 75% of prescription drugs. In 2010, there were 8.76 million prescription drug abusers. $800 million. Anybody know what that is? So when we're done here, I'm going to go down the street to the Hoosier Park and win. That is how much Americans spend every year on antidepressant medication alone. So what drugs are kids taking? 3 different types, and we'll go through this kind of quickly. Opiates, CNS depressants, and stimulants. Opiates are painkillers. They attach to the receptacles in the brain that receive the pain, and they kind of block that pain. They are the most commonly abused prescription medicine, and they are the most addictive. And recently, they're the deadliest. Over a 10-year period between 1999 and 2008, you can see there were about 5,000 prescription overdose deaths in the United States compared to 2008, where it was 22,000. So quadrupled over a 10-year period. And the vast majority of those deaths result from the prescription painkillers. You can skip the effects. Go back to that one. Keep in mind, if you take these pills as prescribed, they manage pain safely and effectively, but the key word there is as prescribed. Individuals using these opiate drugs may become addicted to them in as little as 2 weeks. Parents, for your information, these are what to look for. The most commonly abused prescription opiates are Vicodin, OxyContin, oxycodone, and if you wonder what opiates are, heroin is an opiate. CNS depressants are your sedatives and your tranquilizers. So just as the name implies, they sedate you, they calm you down. They should not be combined with any other medication. If they are, they can slow breathing. They can slow both your heart and respiration, which can be fatal. So keep in mind about those farm parties. When someone's mixing these CNS depressants with other pills that are going to slow your heart rate down. What's going to happen eventually? Your heart's going to get so slow, what's it going to do? It's going to stop. Or if you mix it with the next brand or the next type, the stimulants, which increase your heart rate and increase your blood pressure. So you're taking those pills, your heart's going up like this. You're taking the depressants and your heart's going down. What's it going to do eventually? It's going to get confused and what? It's going to stop. Xanax, the most commonly misused prescription drug on the market today. Klonopin is another one. Valium. And the third type are stimulants, uppers. The exact opposite of the depressants. They make you happy. They bring your heart rate up. They bring your breathing up. That's why they're called uppers. Because they increase alertness, attention, and energy, by their very nature, they're elevating your blood pressure, your heart rate, and your respiration. That's why they are prescribed specific milligrams to kind of control that. And that's why you can't take someone else's stimulant. Go on. Cocaine is a stimulant, if you're kind of wondering with respect to the illicit drugs, what effects stimulants have on you. Think about cocaine, think about methamphetamine, and think about ecstasy. If you need further convincing about the dangers of prescription drug abuse, let me introduce you to some people. This is Sarah. Beautiful girl of 17 years. She went to spring break for the first time to Florida with some friends. They had fake IDs. They entered a bar. Sarah was drinking vodka, and she took 1.5 Xanax pills. They stayed until 3 a.m., and on the way home, Sarah passed out in the back seat of the car. Thinking she would be okay in the morning, her boyfriend carried her out of the car and put her in bed. Less than 24 hours later, Sarah was dead. Meet Alexander. No matter what he put into his body or how he got it, he would never consider himself a drug addict. After all, he wasn't using cocaine or heroin. He was taking pills that anybody can get from a doctor. His brother tells me that it was so much easier to party by popping pills instead of shooting up with heroin. And Alexander's autopsy would prove it. He died from a combination of alcohol and these safe drugs. Jordan When Jordan didn't feel high enough, he found a way to get another pill. He didn't care what they were. Xanax, Valium, OxyContin. He craved them all. He prowled emergency rooms begging for prescriptions. On July 3rd, he stole money out of his mother's bank account. He went down and met his local drug dealer, paid $80 for one Oxy pill. The next day, his mother shook her son to wake him up so they could go watch the fireworks together. His body lay stiff on the living room sofa. She thought he was watching TV. His head was propped up. But at age 20, he was gone. Meet Kent. When Kent was 15 years old, he was addicted to prescription drugs. He went through some rehab and thought he had kicked the nasty habit. He was clean for a couple years, so thought his mother. Ken had to go have some oral surgery done, and the doctor prescribed him some painkillers. And his mother gave him the painkillers. But she noticed something a little bit odd, that the entire bottle of painkillers was empty in less than 2 days. She confronted Kent, and he said, "Mom, remember that first time I got high? It felt great, and all I wanted to do was feel that way again." So he took the entire bottle of painkillers. 6 months later, a couple of friends were celebrating their first year of college. They were crushing OxyContin and downing it with beer, Kent and a couple of his roommates. Kent fell asleep. His two friends left. As he slept, that deadly combination, the alcohol and the oxy, slowed his respiratory system down so much that he died in his sleep. Although I mentioned that I truly welcome the opportunity to talk to you this evening, I have a confession to make. I stand here tonight with mixed emotions. I stand before you with a sadness in my heart and in my mind. It's a sadness that has been with me now for more than 6 years. It's a sadness that will be with me for the rest of my life. I share this with you this evening not to upset you, not to gain your sympathy, not to take away the importance of this event, not to diminish what you hopefully learned tonight. I share this with you in hopes that what you take with you when you leave here will never fade or be forgotten. I want to introduce you to one more young man, Brian. Brian experienced some problems in his early life. He was born on March 22nd, 1988, to a beautiful and special mother named Christina. He's a 2006 graduate of Lawrence North High School. He attended the Culver Military Academy, and he was scheduled to graduate from Ivy Tech in Indianapolis with the criminal justice degree in 2009. He was an avid golfer. He worked at the neighborhood golf course. He enjoyed his friends. That was spring break in 2008. He loved his family, especially his mother. Brian's parents and everyone who knew him laughed about being a mama's boy, but he took pride in that. He always greeted everyone and everything with smile and compassion. But there was something troubling. There's a growing problem in Brian's life in more recent years that remained mostly hidden. No one, including his parents, is sure when and how it began, but his parents say that the signs became more visible over time and reached a breaking point in 2008. Pills from prescription bottles in our own medicine cabinets began to vanish. Cash, jewelry, CDs, other small household items were beginning to disappear from the home, later to be pawned for quick cash. Brian became a totally different person and resorting to theft to support a prescription drug habit. Late nights without coming home or calling became more frequent. His mom would often drive out in the middle of the night to look for Brian, and eventually his behavior caught up to him, resulting in his arrest for theft. The family decided that Brian would go through an inpatient drug treatment at Fairbanks Hospital. And you know that 30-day extensive treatment made all the difference in the world. His mother is quoted as saying, he really wanted to get better, and 2 months out was when he felt the best in a long, long time. He was a brand new person. But, she goes on, the disease was bigger than he was. Krista recalls coming home on the evening of January 13th of 2009. She and her husband had just returned from dinner. It was her birthday. They had invited Brian along, but he had plans to go to a movie with some friends. She recalls Brian coming home late that evening, slurred speech, glassy eyes. looking as though he had gone back to his old habit. Reflecting now on how she had observed him countless times in that same condition, she chose not to call an ambulance. But they again agreed that he would go back and be readmitted to Fairbanks Hospital first thing the following morning. Sadly, it was the last time she would talk to her son or see him alive. At 5:45 in the morning on January 14th, everything changed. Christy, before leaving for work, went into Brian's room to check on him. She immediately noticed that he was lying on the bed kind of funny. He was cold and blue. The day that began as a mother's birthday has become the anniversary marking the death of her only child. It was at that very moment in the early morning of January 14th that I woke up to a scream that pierced the silence. A scream that haunts me every single day, a scream that will continue to haunt me for the rest of my life. I flew out of bed, ran upstairs, and found my wife administering CPR to her already dead son, trying desperately to breathe the life back into him. We phoned 911 and sat on the bed together, waiting for the police, the paramedics, and finally the coroner. We're going to try to get this.
What's the address? 10731?
31, yes, hurry.
Is he blue?
He's white.
How old is he?
Oh, God, he's dead.
Ma'am, I need you to calm down. How old is he? Ma'am? Ma'am, I need you to calm down. How old is he? Please pick up on that. Start, please. How old is he? Hello? Hello? How old is he?
He's 20 years old. Get the familiar.
Okay, is he breathing?
No.
They're already on the way. They've already been dispatched.
Yeah, thank you.
Has he taken anything?
We don't know. He has in the past.
Okay.
You need me on the line anymore, sir?
Okay, yeah, hold on just a second, okay?
Okay.
Said he's 20 years old?
Yes.
Okay. What's his name?
Pardon me?
What's his name?
Brian Spence, FENTZ.
Okay, we're on the way, okay?
Thank you, sir.
Uh-huh.
Next. The cause of death was later determined to be polydrug intoxication, or the overdose from multiple drugs. Now you'll see Brian had many drugs in his system, but the ironic thing is none of those drugs by themselves were fatal. It was the combination of the various ones. And as you can see, there are several painkillers, remember, lowering the heart rate. And it got so slow that it stopped. Brian was gone. A young life tragically lost, other lives changed forever. Brian left his mother a birthday card, a son's final words to his mother. And we got a mother's last memory of her son. You know, a day hasn't passed where we haven't asked ourselves, why didn't we see the signs or do something differently? I see drugs and the effect they have on people every single day in my courtroom, but I failed to recognize them in my own home. I now ask myself, did I really fail to recognize them, or did I choose to ignore them, thinking it would never happen in my home? If only we had called the ambulance that night. If only Brian would have gone to dinner with us. If only we had made different choices. You see, life is all about choices. Choices that have far-reaching implications. And unfortunately, some of our poor choices are irreversible. You have a unique voice. Use it. The choice to use drugs is yours and yours alone. Yes, Brian chose to try drugs, an irreversible choice that resulted in a powerful, relentless force called addiction that grabs a hold and just does not let go. I close tonight with a message from a loving mother. You can go back and get your video.
Christy Nelson wears the letter B around her neck as she holds on to the memory of her only child, a teenage son who was a straight-A student, loved golf, and had plans to go into law enforcement.
The disease was very Brian at the end. He got caught up, prescription pills. I think he thought, they're from the doctor, they're okay.
At the age of 19, after a relapse, Brian overdosed as he slept. It was the night of Nelson's birthday. A coroner telling her his heart likely stopped an hour after she had said goodnight. Xanax, Klonopin, and Vicodin were found in his system.
He said, Mom, I want to stop. And I believe he did.
I think it's an epidemic, and it's increased dramatically over the last 10 to 15 years.
Dr. Timothy Kelly, director of the Fairbanks Treatment Center, says people who have fallen victim to prescription drug abuse occupy most of his day, and the numbers are in no way dwindling.
Healthcare professionals, homeless people, people with college degrees, good jobs, housewives, kids, it's older people.
The CDC finding a fourfold increase in deaths from prescription painkillers over the last decade.
40 people in America die a day because of prescription painkillers. It's definitely one we face along with the other drugs.
The assistant special agent in charge of Indiana DEA office says a handful of investigators only work prescription pill cases.
We have doctor shoppers, the addicts going from doctor to doctor. We have a few bad doctors supplying a lot of drug addicts. We get a lot of kids getting them from their parents' medicine cabinets.
He says while this epidemic has been tough to tackle, the tools are there to catch and punish the offenders. He pointed to the fairly new Inspect program that tracks prescriptions. But addicts keep walking into the Fairbanks Treatment Center and rehab facilities across Indiana. Nelson's son had, but he, like countless other people, couldn't shake the addiction.
It's heartbreaking. It really is, because it's something that doesn't have to happen.
Please say no to prescription drug abuse. I thank you for your time. I thank you for listening. God bless you all.
Has it touched any of you? I see some hands. It's the real deal, It's real. Thank you for sharing, both of you, for coming tonight. One of the things with What's Your Side Effect that we want to encourage you with, and we're going to wrap up this evening here pretty quickly, is that there's these three different things to focus on. It's kind of a three-phase process. The first phase was so powerfully delivered just now, which is your ability to make a decision, a choice. And you've heard it through campaigns, you've heard it on the radio and on television and from your parents, and you've heard people say no to drugs, right? Say no to drugs. And it is important. It's absolutely critical. And it means all drugs. It means be very careful. Be very, very careful. This is nothing to play around with. The next piece of that, once you've made your own personal decision about what you're not going to do that's harmful to you, is what are you going to do that's good for you? It's one thing to say, all right, I'm not going to do drugs, but now what are you going to do? Just lay there? You're going to watch a lot of TV? I mean, there's nothing wrong with watching TV, don't get me wrong. But what are you going to do now that you're not filling your time with the drugs? Is there something you can do? What are some of the things you all do to fill your time? Work out. Read. Jog. Did I hear get a job? School. SAD. I know you all are doing. I mean, what is SAD? What is that? Not everybody knows what that is. Somebody shout that out. And what are some of the things you do? Very good. I mean, this is an event, like SAD is participating in this event. You're active in your community, right? You're doing things. You're finding things to fill your time with that are, so it's, I made a choice, I'm not going to do the drugs. Now I'm also going to make the next step, which is I'm going to fill my time for my life with good, positive things. That's an important next step. If you don't do that next step, you just have all this empty time. And that's where you're like prone to maybe remaking that choice in a bad way. Well, I'm bored. The PlayStation Network is down. My friends brought over some stuff. I'll do it. Because remember, making the choice to say no once isn't enough. It's an ongoing thing. You have to be in a committed state of saying no to the bad stuff. So helping yourself by giving yourself something to do with your time that's positive just makes it even easier to say no. And then that third phase, and I just put up 4 fingers, which means I can't count. The third phase is, once you've occupied your time with the good things you want to do with your life, is go out there and inspire your friends and your community to do the same thing in their lives, right? I mean, we're so self-focused in our society that we think that the only thing I have to do is say no and then do good stuff for myself, and then I'm square. But I want to challenge you to think that there's one more step, one more level of responsibility. And I think a lot of you in this room get this, but I want to call it out so that you can call it out. And that third step is, it's not enough to say no. It's not enough to occupy yourself with really good stuff. You have to get in the way of the problem with your friends. You have to challenge your friends, right? How many friends do you have tonight that aren't here hearing this message? How many friends do you have that don't have access to what's your side effect because they've never heard about it? That aren't hearing all the good possible stories. It's easy for us to think, well, the TV will get them, the newspaper will get them, the radio will get them. I've seen it, I've heard of it, I heard the judge speak tonight, so everybody hears him. That's not true. You have to be an active force in your world. Make your positive no decision to drugs. Make your positive, here's what I'm going to do decision for your life. And then make that third choice to say, and I'm going to get some people on the bandwagon. All right? Everybody think you can do that? I think that's actually a lot easier than to think. It's kind of that reverse peer pressure. And I strongly encourage you to do it. People are dying to be loved, literally. People want to be accepted. People want to do good things. Nobody wants to be hurt or hurting or lost. We all want to be found and loved and accepted. And part of that is your responsibility for the people around you. And I applaud you for doing that, and I encourage you to do it more. We have one more video and another person to hear from. Are you speaking? All right. Now this girl is sweet as sugar, and you'd never know, but you better watch out. Take a look at this. Whoops. That's not it. This will be it.
My name is Madison Peevler. I just turned 15, and I do martial arts, kickboxing. I started when I was 6. I got my black belt when I was 9. I love the discipline and, all the integrity that you get from the sport. I like the adrenaline that comes with it, getting ready for the fight, all the nerves and everything. And then obviously if you win, it's a great feeling. If you lose, you can come back in the gym and try again. It definitely takes determination and a lot of hard work. You know, I'm in here almost every day. You know, I sacrifice just so I can try and be the best. Teaching is what I really love to do. I love looking at a student at the very beginning and seeing the progress as they go. It just gives me that feeling inside that makes me want to do it again. I want to teach kids to not only just defend themselves, but I want them to feel confident and face the world like I can. Anyone who comes next to me, I just want them to keep their head up. I want them to be that positive person. You know, I get good role models, so I want to be that role model. That's my side effect.
Hi, my name is Madison, and I wanted to start off by saying thank you to the people who helped make this campaign. I just wanted to speak briefly about what this campaign has done for me and the people around me. They showed this video at school, so luckily everybody at my school was able to see this campaign. Unfortunately, the day that everybody saw this, I came home with my sister and realized that our neighbor had overdosed, as my mom was saying. It was really unfortunate, but it was also an eye-opener to my school, you know, with this video and the gentleman who overdosed really helped my school realize the effects that prescription drugs have, you know. My video alone might not have done that, but had, you know, this kid not, like, overdosed, you know, people wouldn't have realized what these drugs can do. And as also my mother was saying, a month later his girlfriend had done the same thing. So it was not a good thing, but it did have a positive effect on my school. My school gave me really positive like compliments and comments and everything, and that gave me the opportunity to speak out about what this campaign is. People asked me what it is, and I was able to explain to them how like amazing like it is, you know, and it was just really awesome. And I just want to thank everybody who came out to support me, my students, my family, my coach, and Luke for just making it happen, you know, and thank you.
I want to thank everybody for kind of bearing with us. We only have, I think, 2 more things to do, and then we'll be able to dismiss and send you on your way. I'm going to have Ms. Mecca Andrews-Hill come up, and she's going to talk a little bit about an initiative that Intersect is also working on that allows our youth to tell their stories. As you see in these videos, the kids are talking about what their side effect is, but she works with something a little different in a different medium, and she's going to talk to you about that real quick.
Hi, I'm going to be very brief. As you leave the Fine Arts Center this evening, there are some pictures that are opposite the signing table, and they're our voice project. They're called Photo Voice. And what this project initiative is an opportunity for our youth to tell us the story of what they see in the community. It shows us what they see through their eyes. Instead of us adults telling them what needs to be done or what we see needs to be changed, they are telling us what they see and how it makes them feel and what needs to be changed. And that's all I'm going to say about that. So please take a look at the pictures. There are some captions to them, and they're very thought-provoking. Thank you.
Together, Luke came to us in some of our focus groups, and we kind of came up with this idea. And he took us to Ellick, and we didn't really know what we were doing, but we all showed up, and he was like, look, we're going to put this video together, and it's going to be really cool. And we're like, okay. And then we didn't hear about anything for a long time, and then Vera finally showed us. And so this has been playing in my school, and I think a few other schools as well. It just kind of gets the message across that you can, even though, you know, we're just high schoolers, we can still spread this message. And the question when everyone was repeating, will you join us? That's really what we're here tonight to ask you. And the way that you can join us is just, spreading this message is along with making sure that you and your family are also following, safe habits and not doing destructive decisions and things like that. So I want to thank all of you, and I know that all of SAD are so happy to have you guys here. And if you have any questions, we'll stick around for a little bit. But other than that, you're free to go.